Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Great Malabite Efeni.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning, Malabite.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Adesua.
Good morning.
Elegant in black.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, far too kind.
Let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of records. The lead story, APC at Crossroads as PDP tells court to declare Buni deputy seats vacant. Once party's governorship candidate, running mate in last election, sworn in. Now, just look at two other newspapers with this headline, and we'll come back to this day. The Nigerian Tribune. PDP goes to court, wants Buni sacked as Yobe governor. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, PDP asks court to sack APC chair, Buni deputy. One's own candidate declared Yobe governor will meet in court. Governor. Now, back to this day. Yesterday, this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record talked about the weaponization of the Supreme Court judgment. And here we are. PDP picking the cannon, firing legal salvo. Will they hit the bullseye in court? That is for the courts to decide. Because once you approach the courts will adjudicate. But for the APC, I'm sure the likes of Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and Minister of State for Labor, and, of course, Babafemi Ojodu, and Ita Enang, lawyer and advisor, senior special advisor to the president on Niger Delta affairs, will all be saying, I told you so, because they've warned their party about the continued stay in that position of Mai Buni, the governor of Yobe State, as the interim chairman of the party. But again, others are saying we are on solid ground, banking on the advice of Abubakar Malami, the Attorney General of the Federation. But the courts will adjudicate on this matter. PDP pulling another one there. One would have thought perhaps they will wait longer before using that weapon, but not so. They are already in court. Now, let's look at other stories quickly. The Daily Independent newspaper. Federal government rules out lockdown despite rising COVID-19 cases. Says it has spent 122 billion on 29 million doses of J&J vaccines. Considers no work, no pay rule against striking workers. Yes, when I heard this figure from Adesua, I wasn't too sure. 122 billion on 29 million doses of J&J vaccines. That must be a very expensive vaccine, if you ask me. But we'll need to see the breakdown. Because after spending this amount, perhaps we should be having more vaccines in Nigeria. But again, it will take time before these vaccines come. But before then, the COVID-19 Delta variant is ravaging and spreading. And other newspapers are also reporting on COVID. The Guardian newspaper of Nigeria, Nigeria's The Guardian newspaper, COVID-19. 3 states at risk as federal government suggests precision lockdown. No generalized lockdown for now, government insists. Nigeria records highest daily tally since February. Lagos reactivates COVID-19 oxygen treatment sample collection centers. Doctor strike. Federal government insists on no work, no pay. Dependence on imported vaccines is playing with nation's health, says Guild of Medical Directors, urges government to resuscitate vaccine center in Yaba. The Punch newspaper, COVID-19 free rise. States defend community testing stoppage. Experts warn of disaster. No mass testing. If someone feels somehow, we test. Ekiti Task Force Coordinator. Decision to stop community testing dangerous. Wrong. Short-sighted, says Professor Tomori, leading expert on virology in Nigeria. So if he's saying that, and one coordinator somewhere in Ekiti is saying, if someone feels somehow, we test. Well, that person has to listen to the experts. Vanguard newspaper, COVID-19. Experts blame federal government as cholera rages. Lockdown is last measure, says health minister. Our problem is not another lockdown, but getting people to adhere to safety guidelines. Nigerians have thrown caution to the winds. National Association of Resident Doctors, as federal government spends $122 billion to procure J&J, Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Daily Champion newspaper, doctor strike will enforce no work, no pay rules soon. Federal government rules out fresh general lockdown over COVID-19. I thought by now the federal government should be talking about meeting its obligation, the MOA, Memorandum of Action, instead of talking about no work, no pay, because agreements were reached with these doctors. So when you don't keep to agreements and the doctors go back on strike, you are talking about no work, no pay. Yeah, we know those are in the rule books, but the government should blame itself for not keeping to agreement. Why do you sign an agreement when you don't know you are not going to keep to that agreement? Now, let's look at business stories quickly. Business newspaper, Bankers Committee to digitize FX sales. Yes, Group Managing Director of Guarantee Trust Bank, Mr. Segun Agbaje, has said foreign exchange for personal travel allowance, among others, will now be sold online. If that will help to stop or prevent infractions, then that will be good enough. Now, the National Economy newspaper has been on our table for quite some time now, but making it to the review. Economists tackle DMO on $88 billion debt. Says Nigeria's debt unsustainable. Nation needs holistic planning to close fiscal gap. Okay. Now, contrary to the Management Office rebuttal of a report in a national daily recently that the World Bank had classified Nigeria as one of the top 10 high debt risk nations in the International Development Association audited financial report for the year 2021, that's from July 2020 to July 2021. Economists have voiced their disagreement on the issue, saying that Nigeria is facing a looming debt trap, and that is in itself should be worrisome. A number of economists have talked about Nigeria's debt situation, but the Minister of Finance keep assuring that we are still within manageable limits in our debt crisis, but we spend so much to service our debts. Now, the Business Day newspaper, impressive half-year results show cinemas rebound. Yes, cinemas hit seriously by the past lockdown, now having a rebound. Many are now visiting the theaters, movie theaters once again. The foreign newspapers quickly. Britain and the Guardian newspaper of UK, Britain and US evacuate as Taliban advance in Kabul. Yes, the Taliban yesterday took the second largest city in Afghanistan, Kandahar, and they are advancing towards the capital. Britain and the US have sent in troops to help evacuate their citizens, diplomats, soldiers, as well as Afghans who had worked with the British and the Americans during their time in Afghanistan. Now, the Washington Post newspaper quickly, first drop in U.S. white population. Latino boom helps Texas, other GOP states add seats in Congress. Largest gains among Hispanics as more people identify as multiracial. Now, lastly, the Daily Mail newspaper. Horror in the UK. 6 shot dead in Plymouth gun horror. A man went berserk, killed him 5, including his mother, his toddler, and of course, turn the gun on himself.
Okay. Mr. Effendi, I just wanted to talk about what is happening in Afghanistan. And it's something all of us should look, because you see, America always shows this superhero image of the world, but that's not true. And look at what has happened in Afghanistan. When you look back historically, who empowered the Mujahideen that led to the Taliban in the first place? It was the Americans to fight the Soviets.
To fight the Russians.
To fight the Russians during the Cold
War.
War. And see what is happening today. America went in there to fight Al-Qaeda. They are done with their business. They have left. They keep arguing that, the Afghan authorities have over 350,000 troops and the Taliban have 75,000 fighters. They should be able to do well against the Taliban. They should fight for their country. But we forget that these same Americans went to do a deal with the Afghan government for the Taliban last year in a bid of keeping the peace, and they released 5,000 Taliban fighters. So America is done with its business now. They've left Afghanistan high and dry. Afghanistan's people have to fend for themselves. And this shows volume. So when we are quick to say, America, come and save us, every nation, Nigeria should understand that it needs to save itself. It needs to work towards its own security and saving itself. And I'm saying this because of the numerous non-state actors we have in Nigeria, especially in the northeast part, in the northern part of the country. We just pray for a day where they don't get to overrun this nation, and we should stand up tall and speak truth to power and start to work on emboldening our institutions in this country. It has to be said.
Well, so many stories to deal with, but apparently there isn't enough time. But just to draw attention to the front page of Daily Trust, motorists groan over hike in registration license fees.
Yes, the Daily Trust newspaper.
Yes, the hike across board is about 50%. And that is going to be transferred to, commuters. And I hope that does not create more tension.
Yeah, Ruben, I missed paying the old rate by 1 day last week.
You see. And then, of course, the Ministry of Finance is also talking about vehicle registration. And that, again, the purpose is to raise revenue. I hope we will not wake up one day and we will be required to pay for the oxygen we breathe, within the Nigerian territory. I think that the Federal Road Safety Commission needs to offer us more explanation. What is responsible for this sudden hike?
FRO said they are not responsible for this rise.
So who is responsible?
Maybe the states.
Anyway, thank you very much, Emmanuel Effendi.